Odd Rock is Pauline, Donkey Kong is an RPG now, Diddy and Dixie are back, DK Rap is back, this is happening, even outfits are a thing now. These are all things you already know if you've watched Nintendo's Donkey Kong Bananza Direct, and if you haven't, go do that right now. But what about all the juicy little details you might have missed? Well, that's where I come in. I have combed this Direct from start to finish, and I have found quite a handful of really interesting details that I would love to share with you. Now, the game is less than a month away, so I'm going to try to keep it simple and not get too crazy with any theories. Having said that, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm pretty sure I've got the entire planet mapped out all the way down to its core, including a pretty good guess at the total level count in this game. I cannot wait to talk about that and so many more things, so let's get into parrot mode. I would have bet all 201 golden bananas in DK64 that this game would not have skill trees, but here we are. Donkey Kong got skill trees before GTA 6. Every time DK gathers one or more golden bananas, it fills a golden banana meter. For example, like this one right here, where it fills it up to 3 out of 5. So what happens when we hit 5? Well, if we fast forward to this moment right here, it shows us that every 5 golden bananas collected unlocks a skill point. Now, we're going to dive deeper on skill points a little later in the video, but for now, let's talk a bit more about those bananas. So 1 skill point per 5 bananas, that seems like a pretty good balance, and it seems like, based on the footage, we're collecting golden bananas at a pretty good clip. But what are we looking at here in terms of total skill point availability? How many golden bananas are in this game? Well, let's take a look at the list. As it turns out, it's actually pretty difficult to tell exactly how many bananas are in each layer. While the number in the top right for Lagoon Layer does say 43, first of all, Banana 3 is weirdly just missing. But there's even more missing bananas here between 40 and 51. And to top it all off, the final number showing at the bottom of this list is not 43, but 55. So obviously this just means that at this point in the game, there are still some hidden bananas that have not been revealed yet. But even if we just take these totals for each layer at face value, it's looking pretty good. We have 43 for Lagoon Layer, 35 for Hilltop Layer, and 79 for the Canyon Layer. These numbers are very much in the ballpark of what we saw in Mario Odyssey, and that's a really good sign because that game had over 850 moons. Okay, let's talk about physics just real briefly. In a previous video, I had theorized that gravity might play a major role in the destructible environment part of this game, and I feel like this clip right here has single-handedly snuffed out that candle. I don't mind though, because it looks like we're going to be able to do some pretty goofy stuff, and I love that. However, before we move on, it's worth pointing out that in this clip right here, DK destroys the bottom half of this enemy, and the top half comes crashing down. So maybe you can use gravity and destruction in combat? I don't know, we'll see. And speaking of the destructible environments, lava has been confirmed in this Direct, and oddly, it's classified as a sturdy material. And at first that made no sense to me, it's a liquid, but then look what happens when ice comes into play. If you throw a block of ice at lava, it hardens that lava into sturdy stone, which could then of course be picked up and used like any other sturdy stone. So I think this might present some really interesting puzzle challenges. Say you're in an area that is only mud, lava, and ice. In order to get your hands on sturdy material, which you might need to progress, you have to find ice, use it to cool down the lava, and then give yourself access to sturdy material so you can move forward. I think we're beginning to get glimpses of how the different materials might interact with each other and how that might tie into a puzzle-solving element of this game, and I'm really excited to dig into that. No pun intended. Another new material that showed up is Rainbow Rock. Now, this is a wild one. The most notable property it has is it gives you the ability to fly. However, best I can tell, these purple enemies are filled with it, and when they're defeated, it comes out of them. However, it also comes out of them when they move through the world, and you can see that most clearly in this clip here. As the enemy comes toward DK, it leaves behind this trail of rainbow material, but then when it's defeated, that trail is much larger and longer. So does that mean all of these void purple type enemies have rainbow material inside them that you can extract when you defeat them? I don't know, but this material has some pretty wild implications, and I have a feeling that speedrunners are going to have a field day with it. I can't wait to see what people come up with. So one other thing to note about the rainbow material before we move on it seems like it's some kind of source of power in this world. So if you recall from a previous trailer, there's this shot of DK riding a minecart, and this rainbow stuff is coming up out of the minecart itself, almost like it's being powered by that stuff. But then we have this shot of DK and Pauline riding Rambi with these rocket barrels attached to the sides, and there's a rainbow colored power meter hovering above DK. Now, my guess is you could hit a button and get a boost, a rainbow-powered boost from these jetpacks, but why rainbow? Why is it that this rainbow material seems to be powering a lot of things when it felt like it was the Banandium that was kind of the source of power in this world? I don't know, there's something weird going on here with rainbow stuff. We'll see. Well, as you know, Diddy and Dixie Kong just unceremoniously appeared out of nowhere during the Direct. The fact that even Cranky and Rambi got introduced, but Diddy and Dixie did not, tells me they're going to play a very small role in this game. And it seems like if we take everything at face value, that role is pretty obvious. They seem to be hanging out by this racetrack. They're shown in this clip here racing Donkey Kong, and there is a giant golden first place cup above the racetrack with their faces on it. So what I'm getting from this is they're very much tied to the racetrack and only the racetrack, and I think what we have here is very much a Luigi's Balloon World situation. This is clearly just a challenge mode, maybe even an online challenge mode like Luigi's was, but I don't think there's much else here. On the one hand, that's disappointing. On the other hand, I've said before, I'm kind of glad they seem to be focusing on DK and DK alone, just to get him really right, and then we can expand with Diddy and Dixie and other characters in future games. Just a quick fun thing I noticed here, I'm sure many of you noticed this too, but when DK is in his ostrich Bananza form, he is able to drop eggs like bombs on enemies below. The first thing I thought of was Banjo-Kazooie, with Kazooie shooting the eggs to attack enemies. I still maintain that even though I know it's a different team, there's a lot of rare DNA all over this game, and that really makes me happy, and this is just one more sign of it. And sticking with the Bananza forms for a second, I noticed in the distance right here in this shot, you can see what looks like one of those triangular challenge portals, except this one has a picture of DK in his Kong Bananza form. Now, I feel pretty confident that this means we're going to be getting challenges that are unique to each of DK's Bananza forms, and I think that's further supported here by this clip of DK in his Kong Bananza form completing a challenge. Let's talk about that Bananaphone thing that Void Kong is holding all the time. I've never really been quite sure what this thing is before, but interestingly, in this scene right here, the second Void Kong opens it up, Donkey Kong instantly goes into what looks almost like a state of hypnosis. Now, it could just be that it looks like a banana and he loves bananas and it's that simple, but it almost seems like Void Kong did that on purpose to exert some kind of control over Donkey Kong, and it makes me wonder if he's doing the same thing to Grumpy Kong and Poppy Kong to keep them under his control. And that might even mean they turn into good guys at the end of the game. That'd be pretty cool. So there's this shot here that shows DK and Pauline briefly diving down between layers, and you can see how fast they're going by looking at the layer counter over here. And while this might be nothing more than just diving through a tunnel and trying to gamify that a bit, maybe to avoid a load screen or something, I don't know. What if there's more to it? What if as they dive down, there are secrets to find, maybe even golden bananas to find, and maybe even hidden entrances to bonus layers? I just think if they went to all the trouble to make the tunnels between layers a playable segment, there might be more to them. As many of you had guessed, gold can be used to buy things at a shop, namely the stuff shop. So we have the red balloon, which does what we all expect. We have a 10x red balloons. Then we have apple juice, which fully restores health, so basically a health potion. Melon juice, which lets you activate a Bananza form without a full energy meter. Bananergy meter. And we can't tell for sure, but it looks like this might be a treasure map for Banandium gems. Kind of like how you can find fossil treasure maps around the world. Alright, I mentioned earlier that we'd take a look at skill points and how they work, so let's do that now. So of course you use skill points to upgrade these different perks, and each one gets more expensive as you upgrade it, just like any other skill tree. I studied these icons for a little bit, and I think I have a pretty good guess what most of them are going to be. Here's what I came up with. So I'm just going to go left to right really quickly, and you can pause the video for a closer look anytime you want. So we know for certain that these first two are health and punch power. I think this one upgrades your chunk jump. This one upgrades your punch and bonanza form. This one increases your apple juice uses. This increases your hand slap collection range. This increases the duration of your turf surf. I frankly have no idea what this one is. This one increases how many uses you get out of melon juice. This one increases your hand slap sonar range. This is how you unlock and upgrade surf surf. I'm guessing this one gives you some kind of shield or defense upgrade in Kong Bananza form. This flame here looks like it's related to Bananza forms. Maybe it's a general upgrade for all of them. Once again, I'm really not sure what this is. This looks like DK beating his chest, and I think maybe that lets you summon Bananza forms faster. And finally, this looks like it gives you some kind of spin attack. If you think I'm wrong about any of those, or you have a good guess about the two I couldn't identify, put a comment below and let me know what you think. And speaking of upgrades, by the way, we know that DK has access to a handful of abilities while he's holding materials. He can double jump off of them, he can turf surf with them, but he can also apparently use them to ride down laser beams like a zipline. Now the weird thing is, unless I'm misreading the icons, this ability does not show up in the skill tree. This seems like something that would be unlockable and or upgradable, so maybe it's just one of these hidden ones that we don't see yet. Alright, just a few more to go here before we talk about the planet layers at the end. This next one has me very curious. First, let's take a look at typical shop NPCs. They all have this bubble above their head letting you know you can talk to them, and a little icon in that bubble that lets you know what it is they sell. So bearing that in mind, take a look at this rock giraffe NPC. He has a Banandium gem icon above his head. Now he might just sell these Banandium gem treasure maps that we see in the stuff shop, but again, seeing as how he's not with the rest of the shopkeepers, but rather just in the middle of nowhere, what I'm hoping is that he's a quest giver. It would be so cool if you talked to this guy, he gave you a quest to go on, and then rewarded you with a Banandium gem when you completed the quest. If NPCs like this were scattered all over the game, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I was right about this little blue house NPC. He lets you build getaways in every area. Now, to be fair, of the three guesses, this is the one I said was least likely, but I still called it, so I have to brag about it just a little bit. So like they said, you can use these getaways to relax and restore health, change your outfit, and listen to music. But here is one thing I absolutely did not expect. Based on the icons of this map here, you can build multiple getaways in a single area. I thought for sure it'd be one getaway per layer, but it looks like you can build them all over the place, and that's really cool because I think it means that I'm gonna visit them more often. If it's kind of like stables in Breath of the Wild and they're just everywhere, so they're easy to visit no matter where you are, that's pretty cool. The music player feature is back from Mario Odyssey, but this time it seems like you have to collect the discs out in the world, which I like a lot more than the songs just randomly unlocking as you go. But here is the interesting twist I didn't expect. I figured that each disc you collect in the world would correlate to the area you're in. However, as we can see right here, DK collects this disc in the lagoon layer, but the music track is for Ingot Isle. So apparently you just have no idea what you're gonna get every time you grab a disc, and I think that makes it a little more exciting. Okay, here we are. Let's talk about the layers of the planet. We know for sure what the first four areas are in order: Ingot Isle, the lagoon layer, the hilltop layer, and the canyon layer. Now these first three areas are all in this upper layer of the planet, this brightest yellow layer. And notably, they all have the same terrain strength, but we'll get back to that in a minute. So as I was looking at this, I just wanted some way to get a full picture of exactly how big this planet is and how many layers there are all the way down to the core. So here's what I did. I zoomed out and used the arc of this first layer to create a full circle of that layer so we can see the size of the planet. Then I just kept creating layers of the exact same width all the way down, and I realized that if I did that, I can create 5 perfect layers all the way down to a nice little core at the center. And what was it Void Kong said was his main goal? The Banandium root. Now, one thing that's interesting about the fact that I was able to create 5 layers all the way down to the core is that the maximum terrain strength rating is 5 stars. Now, oddly, the first 3 areas in the upper layer all have a 2-star rating, and I would expect them to all have a 1-star rating, but regardless, 5 stars, 5 layers, it just makes sense. So once I had the size of the planet and the layer count figured out, I decided to take it one step further. If 3 areas can fit in this first ring here, it's probably safe to assume that approximately 3 will be in each layer going down. If we assume that there's 3 levels in each ring all the way down to the core, there's going to be 15 levels in this game and then 1 final boss area. Now, how many levels were in Mario Odyssey? Well, if you include the final Darker Side challenge, it's 17 total. So we're looking at roughly the same level count here. And going back to the Banandium gem list from earlier, if we have roughly the same levels that Mario Odyssey had, it looks like we're going to have the same number of Banandium gems to collect as Mario Odyssey had moons. And you know what my favorite part of all of this is? When they were showing us trailers for Mario Odyssey, they ended up showing off almost every single level in that game. And once I finally played it, I was disappointed because I felt like I'd already seen everything. However, in the case of DK Bananza, they have shown us far fewer levels, mostly just these first 3, with a couple others like the snow and lava areas. I love that because that means we have a lot of surprises in store, and I can't wait to discover them for the first time as I play the game. So there you have it. A whole bunch of fascinating new information all about DK Bananza that somehow has me even more excited for this game than I was before. What do you think? Did you catch anything in this direct that I missed? Or perhaps you have a different take on some of the guesses I've made. Either way, please leave me a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, I read and respond to every comment I get. And this has been one of my favorite parts about doing these videos, is having these fascinating conversations with you guys in the comments. I will definitely be live streaming this game on launch day and talking about it with you guys as I play. So if that interests you, please turn on those notifications so you can join the conversation live with me. I cannot thank you enough for choosing to spend your time with me here in this video. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a wonderful day.